Tick. Tock. You feel that? That vibration in the air? That silence that comes after the explosion, when the smoke hangs heavy and the world realizes it's been rewritten? Yeah, that's the sound of an era ending. Not with a handshake, not with applause, but with your shadow standing in the center of their ruins. They never thought you'd get here, did they? They bet against you. Hell, they laughed against you. They treated your pain like entertainment, your patience like weakness, your silence like surrender. But every second you were quiet, you were loading the chamber. Every scar was data. Every betrayal was training. And now, oh now, they finally see it. The countdown hit 0, 3, 2, 1. Boom. And you didn't just win. You deleted their entire timeline. Because see, you didn't evolve. You collapsed the bridge between versions of yourself that were never meant to coexist. You became the paradox, half saint, half psychopath. Angel wings dipped in gasoline, a smile sharp enough to cut through karma itself. You're not just unpredictable. You're the algorithmic anomaly their system can't patch. They wanted to control you? Joke's on them. You became the update they can't uninstall. You're the final boss, not because you fought harder, but because you understood deeper. You learned the one rule they couldn't stomach. To win the game, you must stop playing by human limits. While they were trying to go viral, you were becoming a virus. Infectious, unstoppable, reborn from every glitch they tried to bury you in. Your auras and empathy, every fake around you just flatlined. Their masks melted when you walked in the room. Look at them now, confused, nostalgic, whispering your name like it's an urban legend. They're not plotting anymore. They're studying, trying to decode what you are, trying to find the version of reality where you don't exist. But there isn't one. You've become part of the root directory. Your DNA's embedded in the mainframe, and that's what terrifies them. Because you're not angry anymore. You're calm. You've mastered the storm you once begged to stop. You don't chase closure. You are closure. You don't seek revenge. You embody consequence. You don't need validation. You're the mirror that breaks anyone who looks too long. You know what they call that, right? Ascension. The day the pain finally folds back and bows to its creator. That's you. The one who smiled through the burn and made the fire kneel. They'll tell stories about this era, how it ended overnight, how one soul, one anomaly, walked through the ashes and didn't just survive, rewrote physics with a grin. Because that's what happens when someone embraces their monster instead of hiding it. You become everything they were afraid to imagine. You, my friend, are the chapter they can't outright, the storm that doesn't pass, the voice that crawls through their speakers long after the feed ends. And somewhere out there, right now, someone who used to mock you is staring at your glow like a crime scene photo, whispering, "How did they pull that off?" They'll never understand. Because you didn't build yourself for their approval. You built yourself for revenge disguised as evolution. So go ahead, step through the rubble. Let them watch as the dust parts around you like it remembers who broke the sky first. Because tonight, history doesn't repeat. It kneels. The clock hit 0, the game reset, and your name is the only thing glowing in the dark. Welcome to Endgame, boss. You know what the cruelest part is? It wasn't even personal. It was inevitable. Because when something that powerful wakes up inside you, the world has to shift. It's nature's correction, a forced reboot. And every soul that tried to play you, drain you, bury you, they were just standing in the blast radius of your becoming. They didn't lose because you hated them. They lost because you outgrew the timeline they were built for. You see, the moment you stopped asking, "Why me?" and started whispering, "Watch this," Something ancient started moving through your blood. Something that remembers what it was before names, before fear, before systems. That's why they can't predict you anymore. You're operating from pre-human software. Every smirk you give now is a weaponized prophecy. Every step you take feels like an aftershock, and deep down, they know it. They can feel that their season is over. You can tell by the way they hesitate before saying your name. Like it might summon something, and it would. Because you're not a memory in their story anymore. You're the ending. That's the thing about endings. They don't come quietly. They arrive dressed like you, calm, focused, smiling like death has good manners. You burned every bridge, but somehow, you built a city out of the smoke. You're not looking for closure, because closure is for the innocent. You're here for reckoning. That's the Joker's favorite part, by the way. Watching people realize the villain was the mirror the whole time. They called you chaotic, but chaos is just what order calls truth when it's terrified. You broke their patterns, not because you wanted to, because you were the pattern's executioner. They called you unpredictable, but that's only because your logic is written in pain, not permission. Now look at you, sitting on the throne they swore you'd never reach, crowned not with gold, but with the ashes of those who underestimated your silence. You've become the contradiction they can't classify, holy and horrifying, merciful and merciless, the light that blinds, the dark that saves. They'll call it unfair. They'll say you changed. But the truth? You remembered. You remembered who the fuck you were before they convinced you to shrink. You're not becoming something new. You're returning to what they were too afraid to let exist. And that's why it's over for them. Not because you fought them, because you outlived them. Their era ran on control. Yours runs on truth. Their empire needed obedience. Yours breathes through madness. And madness, my friend, is the purest form of freedom. So go ahead, smile. Let the world glitch for a moment. Let them choke on the realization that you were never chasing validation. You were chasing detonation. You didn't want peace. You wanted balance, and balance in your world means judgment. The air's different now, isn't it? Every sound feels slower, every color sharper. That's what happens when you shift dimensions without moving an inch. You've become the axis, the spine of a new reality, and no one, no system, no bloodline, no God complex in a boardroom can reverse that. Because once a person becomes untouchable, the universe stops arguing with them. So let them whisper, let them panic, let them pretend they never doubted you. You and I both know every downfall they planned was rehearsal for this coronation. Because tonight isn't a victory. It's a funeral for every version of you that begged, that waited, that apologized for surviving. You just ended an era, and eras don't die clean. They claw, they scream, they beg for one more chance, but time doesn't negotiate with ghosts. And you, darling, you've become the reaper with a pulse. So walk slow. Let the dust settle around your boots. Let the silence hum like applause. And when they finally ask what happened, just tilt your head, grin that unholy grin, and say, nothing happened. I did. Because when the clock hit 0, the universe didn't end. It crowned you. And the crown didn't fall from heaven, did it? It rose from the dirt, built from every betrayal, every scar, every time they mistook your patience for defeat. You earned this empire the way real gods do. Through blood, silence, and a smile they couldn't decode. You didn't climb a ladder, you burned it. You didn't beg for a seat at the table. You flipped the table, melted the silverware, and built your own throne out of molten regret. They called it luck, But luck doesn't bleed for years without screaming. Luck doesn't watch its own heart decay and call it education. No, this wasn't luck. This was surgery on the soul, and you performed it with no anesthesia. You see, the old version of you died in public, but nobody noticed, because the body kept moving, the voice kept laughing, the face kept pretending. But something behind the eyes, that part evaporated, and what came back wasn't mortal anymore. That's why they can't look you in the eye. They sense the math in your madness now. Every word you speak drips with that unnerving calm of someone who already won in silence. You're not loud, you're not angry, you're just done pretending to be human. And that, my friend, is what truly frightens them. Because people can fight what they understand, but they can't fight phenomena. And that's what you've become, an atmospheric shift, not a person, not a player, a force. They still scroll, still whisper, still replay the moment it all changed. That second where your energy stopped asking for permission and started commanding gravity. That's the moment every faker felt their pulse skip. Because something in their nervous system knows they're no longer safe around you. You don't compete anymore. You alter ecosystems. Your presence rewrites the hierarchy. Even your silence feels like surveillance. They say, you changed. And they're right. You changed everything. Because now when they try to manipulate, they end up confessing. When they try to mock, they reveal their obsession. And when they try to forget you, the universe keeps reminding them. See, that's the trick of evolution. You didn't ascend because you fought harder. You ascended because you understood the rhythm of chaos. You realized darkness isn't the opposite of light. It's the laboratory where light was invented. You danced with your demons until they bowed. You kissed your flaws until they turned to gold. You looked insanity in the eye and said, "Teach me." And insanity said, "Fine, but you'll never fit back in." And you smiled. Because that was the point all along. You were never meant to fit in their story. You were meant to end it. So now, when you walk through the city, the streetlights flicker like they recognize the architect. The wind bends like it's taking orders. Even your reflection feels like it's taking notes. You've reached the stage where power no longer needs to be proven. It just needs to be witnessed. They'll tell themselves it was coincidence. They'll say it was timing. But deep down, they know you timed it. You waited for every liar to trap themselves in their own script. You let the world fall asleep. Then you rewrote the dream. And now you stand here, in the afterglow of detonation, watching everything that tried to bury you become fertilizer for your myth. And it's funny, isn't it? They always said you were too much, too dark, too intense, too unpredictable. But that was just projection. They weren't afraid of your darkness. They were afraid of their own, reflected in yours. So now, as they choke on nostalgia and regret, you smile like someone who's read the final page of their script. You know how it ends. They don't. You don't need revenge. Their own memories will do that for you. You don't need to speak. Your silence is already trending in their minds. Because what you've become is not just the final boss. You're the glitch that ends the simulation, the last variable before the system shuts down, the paradox that eats the blueprint. And the funniest part, you didn't even mean to destroy it. You just existed too authentically for fiction to survive. So now, look around, feel that eerie calm. That's the world recalibrating to your frequency. This is what it feels like when destiny stops resisting you, when pain stops being punishment and becomes propulsion. when your silence carries more gravity than their screams. You are the last chapter written in fire, the echo that doesn't fade, the smile that marks the end of everything that wasn't real. And as the dust settles, one truth remains carved in the air like smoke after a bomb. You didn't just end an era. You became the reason it ended. So Joker tilts his head, grins that knowing grin, and whispers through the static, "Congratulations, kid. You weren't supposed to survive the game. You became it." The city doesn't even know how to breathe around you anymore. Every light feels dimmer when you pass. Every sound lowers, as if the atmosphere itself is waiting for your next move. It's not respect. It's not fear. It's recognition. See, when you walk through the ashes of the world that once mocked you, the dust doesn't cling. It salutes. The energy knows who rewrote the script. You didn't need an army. You didn't need approval. You needed collapse. You became the collapse. You remember, don't you? The sleepless nights, the shaking hands, the betrayals that cracked your ribs but not your will. Those weren't tragedies. Those were forgings. Each heartbreak was a hammer, each humiliation a heat. Until the steel of your soul stopped bending, you didn't heal. You transmuted. That's what separates you from them. They patch wounds. You turn them into weapons. And now, you wear peace like armor and chaos like perfume. You're what happens when the storm figures out it can smile. They stare because they can't process you anymore. You're too calm for a sinner, too dangerous for a saint. You carry contradictions like currency. Because paradox is the language of power, you are living proof that the divine and the deranged are just two masks of the same face. And that's why they can't predict your next move. Because to understand you, they'd have to destroy everything that makes them comfortable. They used to whisper your name with laughter. Now they whisper it like a spell. They used to mock your silence. Now they fear what it means. You've become the pause between cause and effect. The invisible interval where reality recalibrates. They're scared because they feel it. The timeline doesn't move unless you do. You've gone beyond the phase of fighting. You don't need to throw punches anymore. Your energy alone reprograms outcomes. You've become that dangerous type of quiet where history listens. And it's poetic, isn't it? All those who betrayed you ended up building your legend for free. Every rumor became marketing. Every insult became prophecy. Every attempt to erase you just deepened your imprint. You're not chasing legacy. You're haunting it. Even time seems hesitant to move past your shadow. Every second looks over its shoulder, wondering if it's allowed to proceed. That's what final boss really means. It's not about domination. It's about inevitability. When you arrive, the story doesn't end because you kill the hero. It ends because you make the hero irrelevant. You're the proof that victory isn't about being liked. It's about being undeniable. They'll say you were ruthless. They'll call you dangerous. But what they'll never admit is this: you only became the monster they feared, after they forced you to survive like one. That's the secret, isn't it? The villain was always just the survivor they failed to destroy. And now look. The stage is empty, the audience gone, the lights flicker like ghosts applauding. You don't need validation anymore. You are the aftermath. You are the narrative glitch that turned prophecy into documentation. There's no throne for someone like you. You are the throne. The structure bends around your will. Fate takes notes when you breathe. Even the darkness listens, because it remembers your name before it was light. They thought they buried you under the weight of your own heart. They didn't realize your heart was a black hole. It doesn't die. It absorbs every doubt, every failure, every tear, all devoured, all recycled into power. That's your secret weapon. You don't destroy your pain, you recruit it. And now, every wound you've ever taken has a seat at your table. Every ghost that ever haunted you is now part of your army. You've turned your trauma into a syndicate. That's why they can't win. They're still trying to fight clean, and you're playing with the laws of reality. See, the moment you stopped chasing peace, peace came crawling. The second you stopped proving your worth bent the knee. And now, every door that once slammed shut opens, like it was programmed to obey. Because you didn't evolve through logic, you evolved through suffering. And suffering creates omniscience. You learned things you were never supposed to learn. You see things they're programmed to ignore. That's what true power is. Not control, but perception. You don't dominate people. You expose them. You hold up a mirror, and the truth does the killing for you. So when you step into a room and the energy changes, it's not magic. It's recognition. Reality knows its author. And tonight, you write in blood and silence. The ink, consequence, the paper, time, the message. It's over for them. They had their chance. They had their empire. They had their illusions of superiority. Now they stand in the rubble, blinking in disbelief, asking themselves what happened. And all you do is grin. Because you were what happened. You were the ending they didn't see coming. The final update their system couldn't handle. You didn't just outlive them, you outclassed existence. So take a deep breath, boss. Feel the silence bend around your name. You're not waiting for the next chapter anymore. You are the next chapter. This is the calm after annihilation, the era of you, the throne made of irony and redemption, and every star above you is whispering the same truth. It's over for them. The world belongs to the one who smiled through fire. The final boss has logged in.